Why is GPT-4o free when GPT-4 was a paid subscription? The answer is competition. Something really interesting happened in the AI world this week. I'm going to break down the ChatGPT-4o release in three perspectives. The first one is from a marketing point of view. What can we learn from this and what are the implications of ChatGPT-4o being free? The second one is from a business and strategy point of view. What actually happened? What can we learn from this? And if we were in their position, what option or what strategy would we have implemented? And the third thing would be the takeaway of how can we implement this strategy in our own businesses. So let's dive in. Number one, the marketing perspective is that the offer that OpenAI had in the world before has just become obsolete and they had to come up with a new offer. Here's what that means. OpenAI's old offer was ChatGPT 3.5. That was their free version and it was limited to internet records from like September 2022 or something. And the paid offer that they had was ChatGPT 4, which had real-time internet access and you could upload files and whatever and use it to do data analysis and stuff like that. That was their previous offer. And ChatGPT 4 was a $20 per month subscription. Their new offer is that ChatGPT 4o, their most recent and up-to-date, their best AI system that they've created so far, is available completely for free, but with limited access. And the paid version allows you to have 5 times more messages than the free version. So the paid version is still $20 a month, but just with more access to the same thing. You see what I mean? The offer has completely changed. Before they were in a position where they could withhold their best AI system. They're no longer in that position anymore. The race for AI supremacy is in full swing and has switched into another gear now. By competing like this, by creating this new offer, OpenAI has just admitted to the world that they have lost their first mover's advantage. Before doing this, I don't really think they had to compete much. They were so far ahead of the competition, it was ridiculous. And Google's reactionary initial attempts with Bard and Gemini 1.0, which was creating all kinds of wrong images and whatnot, Google's basic screw-ups didn't really help the cause either. OpenAI was just completely dominant. But something changed. Google just came out with Gemini Live, with Gemini 1.5 and Google VO, their answer to OpenAI's Sora basically, and a bunch of other AI integrations into the entire Google ecosystem. Now Google's stepping up their AI game has changed the playing field significantly. And they put a whole lot of pressure on OpenAI to actually compete. And by the way, just as a side note, isn't it nice to see Google actually competing again? Like they've been complacent for I don't even know how long. I can't remember the last time they produced a product that was a hit. So it's good to see Google having to justify why they're one of the big tech giants. It's pretty cool to see that in action. So back to the marketing competition point. Now, Google stepping up their AI game has definitely put a lot of pressure on OpenAI. And guess what? There's one more major big tech giant that hasn't actually entered the AI scene just yet. Apple. All we know is with iOS 18 and WWDC this year, they're going to announce a bunch of AI things. And knowing Apple, if they're going to introduce a product, it's probably going to be pretty killer, especially when it comes to software. So OpenAI knows that Apple is coming as well, and Google's already here with like version 1.5. It's basically version 2 of their existing Gemini AI software. So that's what the marketing landscape looks like for OpenAI. They're competing with Google and Apple. Now let's switch to the second part of this video and look at this situation from a business strategy point of view. So we know that OpenAI just lost their first mover's advantage. We know that they're competing against Google, a revitalized Google. And we know that Apple, the big software juggernaut, is coming later this year. If you were in charge of OpenAI right now, what decisions would you make? Google's whole AI integrations with their ecosystem and whatnot is basically a better free version of AI than your paid version. How do you compete when your competition's free stuff is arguably either on par or almost as good enough as your paid stuff? Well, one solution is you make your paid stuff free. To be fair, this is like the lowest hanging fruit, isn't it? We're kind of assuming that if your product is good enough and people have a need for it eventually down the line, the fact that they're using your product for free means when they need to buy a service like this or when they need paid features, your product would be the first one that they choose. That's pretty much what OpenAI is going for. It's kind of like the drug dealer model. If people are going to be high anyways, they may as well be high on your product. And when they need more or have a need to buy, you're right there with the supply ready to go. There's one main pro and one main con of this strategy that I want to highlight to you. The main benefit or the main pro of this strategy is that you have a user base of potential buyers who are already using your product. So by the time they need to buy it or need paid features, you're the first person they choose. So that's kind of obvious, right? Now the main con is that this could turn into a race to the bottom. You just made your paid product free. Now Google's going to come in, make more stuff free. People are going to divert that way. Now to get them back, you're going to have to strip down your product even more and rely on thinner and thinner margins over time. So that's the main upside and downside of the make your paid stuff free strategy. So what's another solution? One that I can think of is to justify your price tag. This is basically what Apple does. Apple doesn't devalue its products and services. They just keep making the experience of using their products and services combined 100 times better than anyone else in the competition. So basically, while their individual products might be super expensive, but how they all collaborate and work together, that kind of walled garden that they build justifies their price tag. So the main pro here is obvious, right? You never have to devalue your product or services, or you never have to make your paid stuff free. And the main con here is that not everyone's going to be willing to pay for your stuff. If we take a look at the walled garden strategy, basically they create such high walls that prevent people from the inside to leave, but those high walls also become high barriers to entry. So the main thing that Apple has to focus on is getting people through that walled garden. And that's a pretty high friction initial sale to make, because when people choose to buy an Apple product, they're not really buying like a random phone or a laptop. You're really buying into the Apple lifestyle. So it's a lot harder of a sale to make, but once the person's inside the walled garden, the walls kind of keep them there. So it's worth it in that sense. If you were leading OpenAI, which one of these strategies would you choose? Would you create the walled garden, or would you be the drug dealer to your users? Because that's basically what OpenAI chose to do. All right, so the third thing that I want to share with you in this video is how we can implement this strategy in our own businesses, in particular online businesses. It's actually pretty simple. Think of the free version of your product as your content. So let's think of it with an example. Let's take Canva for example. You use Canva to create your images and pictures and creatives for basically anything, right? YouTube thumbnails, social posts, etc. So let's say you've been using Canva for 6, 7, 8 months. Now you have a need to use one of their paid features for whatever reason. You want better stock images that you can utilize in your pictures. At that point, what are you going to do? Are you going to download like GIMP or Adobe Photoshop and learn how to use an entirely different tool completely from scratch because you don't want to pay $5 for Canva? No, most likely you value your time and you're just going to pay these guys whatever, $5, $6 per month that they want and just be able to do your thing and get on with it. You already know how to use Canva and you know it works for you. So it becomes the obvious choice to use. Now this exact experience can be replicated through our content. The key is, how do we make content that's relevant to the people we want to attract? Now that's a different question. I can answer it if you like in a separate video. Just let me know. But the main takeaway I want you to have is that if you're doing some form of online business, you absolutely must be putting out content consistently. The way the world works now, it's kind of like a high-tech village or a high-tech tribe, except every person gets to choose who they want in their tribe. There is such a thing as people having a parasocial relationship with content creators. From the content creator's point of view, it's a one-to-many relationship. But from the end viewer or the person watching the content or consuming the content, from their point of view, it's a one-to-one relationship. The truth is that people buy from other people they know, like, and trust. Good old KLT. I'm not saying anything revolutionary or groundbreaking over here. You already know this. There is no sale if there is no trust, right? So can we create landing pages and sales pages where a complete stranger comes to the page and choose to buy your product? Yeah, sure, that's obviously doable. But that process becomes like 1,000% easier when the person hitting your sales page, by the time they hit the sales page, they already have a relationship formed with you. They know you, they like you, and they trust you. Because the stuff that you say in your content, the advice and tips and whatever that you're putting out, they have tried it and implemented it in their life. And in their mind, they're like, you know what? This guy's stuff is good. I'm gonna give him a shot. That's the best way to make sales online. Honestly, it's the only way. Everything else really is just a gimmick. If somebody's telling you you can circumvent the KLT factor or the trust factor, that person for sure is selling you something. And they're most likely making their money by selling you how to make your money. Be careful for that. So that, in my opinion, is why I think ChatGPT 4o is free. They're doing the drug dealer model and building their KLT factor and staying top of mind, really. It's basically the free content strategy we talked about. So if you enjoyed this video, please drop me a like. And if you think I completely missed the mark, let me know in the comments below. It'd be a cool conversation to have. And that's all I got for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.